Canestracci here. I'm back. It's been a minute, but it was the holidays and I had a lot of work and I had to take a break. That last Led Zeppelin physical graffiti review I did was actually part of a larger rankorama, a Led Zeppelin ranking video that I did like a year and a half ago. But I always wanted to remove that physical graffiti section because it's my favorite Led Zeppelin album and one of my favorite albums of all time. I always wanted to have that be its own video, so it was a way to kind of keep the content going on this channel. Plus, I've gotten much better at making videos these days. Even videos I did just like a year ago, I want to kind of get my hands on them and make them a little bit better. And that's what I did with the physical graffiti video. But while watching that original Led Zeppelin ranking video, I came upon the conclusion that a lot of it was bullshit. Yeah, I didn't like my rankings, especially when it came to this album. Yeah, Led Zeppelin III. I was shocked to see where I ranked it. Yeah, I ranked it at number 5, and I have major issues with that. Yes, because it's my second favorite Led Zeppelin album. Yes, I don't know what Eddie Canestracci was thinking a year and a half ago, but, well, actually I have a suspicion. I know what he was thinking about a year and a half ago. About a year and a half ago, he was really obsessed with this album. Yeah, he went really crazy over Presence. Yeah, because it was an album he had neglected when he was younger and didn't listen to so much. So now, as a middle-aged man going through a divorce, yeah, I was going through a divorce at the time, and living at a friend's house in West Hollywood. So it was kind of a weird transitional period in my life. Like I said, I was going through a divorce. Presence was like a great album for that because it's darker, it's more metallic, it's less romantic. That's the thing. Led Zeppelin III is kind of a romantic album. A little more on that later. So I was just feeling more Presence at that period. You know, it was darker, it was harder, it's more masculine. There was no folk side to it. There was no acoustic side. It was just really appealing to me. And I do love that album, but I ranked it too high. I made it my second favorite Led Zeppelin album, and it was then. That's the thing. All my rankoramas, all my past ranking videos, they are honest snapshots of the moment. But that's ultimately the problem I have with ranking videos. And I'm going to get more into my overall problem with ranking videos after the Led Zeppelin III review. Once again, I'm watching this video and I'm like horrified that Led Zeppelin III, I'm saying it's 5th place. I'm even acknowledging that it's crazy that I'm putting it in my 5th place. But I did it anyway. That was the moment. That was the place I was in. Yeah, there's this acoustic side and this folkier side, and it's more romantic than, say, an album like Presence. I just really was not in a place. I was not in an emotional place to listen to Led Zeppelin III a lot. I mistakenly chose to rank it lower simply because I was not in the mood to be listening to Led Zeppelin III a lot during that period. Led Zeppelin III has always been my second favorite Led Zeppelin album. It was only during that rankorama, and I was in a weird place because of the divorce, that suddenly Led Zeppelin III was knocked down all the way down to 5. I'm in a better place. I'm kind of rebuilding and reclaiming myself as a person. This is a very cathartic video for me to make because me reclaiming my love of Led Zeppelin III, I'm in a sense reclaiming myself. What an amazing album. See, the thing is, I was just listening to this on vinyl this week. I listened to it a couple times this week on vinyl, and that's when I came to the conclusion I had to make this video, and I had to talk about Led Zeppelin III and how it's such an amazing album. I mean, just look at this packaging. Led Zeppelin didn't just make the best sounding albums with the best songs in the 70s, in my opinion. They also easily made the best album artwork. Look at this. I love the spinning wheel thing. Look, you spin it. Isn't that fun? And you could choose which band member you want to focus on. Oh, look, there he is. There's Bonzo, John Bonham. You could have John Bonham if you want. Right there. Where you go, no, let's. Oh, Robert Plant, there he is. There he is. And then if you're really offbeat, you could want John Paul Jones. No disrespect to John Paul Jones, but it'd be a little weird if he's the guy you want to look at all the time. This is Led Zeppelin. Just look at those other 3 guys. And then Jimmy Page. Yes, I always keep it on Jimmy Page. I bet you I'm not the only one. But I always keep it on Jimmy Page because he is my favorite member of Led Zeppelin. Not only is he my favorite member of Led Zeppelin, he's my favorite guitarist of all time. He's my favorite producer of all time. I think in general, he's just my favorite rock star. In a lot of ways, I feel like Led Zeppelin are the ultimate rock and roll band. No one really, I mean, the Beatles and the Stones laid down the foundation, but then Led Zeppelin perfected it. They perfected it, and no one bested them later. I'm sorry, like no one. Like, Guns N' Roses, not even close to looking as cool and sounding as cool and being as innovative as Led Zeppelin was in the 70s. There have been many awesome bands after Led Zeppelin, but Led Zeppelin, in my opinion, they were like the peak rock and roll band because they were the band after the Beatles and the Stones that understood the power of rock and roll music. They understood how this music was culturally significant. And with that knowledge, they leaned into it and decided to be a very culturally significant and important rock and roll band at the peak of its importance in culture. From the early to mid 70s, being in the greatest rock and roll band of all time, especially once the Beatles had dissolved, what could be more significant than that from a cultural standpoint? This is the peak of that era, the peak of arena rock, the peak of the art of the album, the peak of all the mysticism and mythology that these bands during this time period were creating. And Led Zeppelin, they were definitely at the top of that food chain. And that's why, I keep going back to them all these years after listening to them since I've been in high school. And I'm still listening to them and spitting records, and their music still means so much more to me. And even though it was not Led Zeppelin III, it was Presence that helped me get through a divorce, it's now Led Zeppelin III that's helping me heal and reclaim myself. That's the power of a great album. It's a world you're going back to. And Led Zeppelin III welcomes me back into its world with hospitality and warm arms. I feel like I'm out on that Bron-Yr-Aur, or however you pronounce that. It's a Welsh word. You got to roll the R, and obviously I can't do that, and I'm not going to pronounce it right. I'm sure most Yanks don't pronounce it right. Where's Richard Burton when you need him, Bron-Yr-Aur is this rural area that's located in Wales, and it translates to Breast of the Gold, or Golden Hill, or Hill of the Gold. I like Breast of the Gold. I bet you Led Zeppelin did as well. So we're going to say it means Breast of the Gold. And it's this rural area, and they were essentially staying at this cottage after their first couple of tours, and they were writing songs there. This was just during the writing process, Jimmy with an acoustic guitar, and they were writing a lot of the songs that would make up Led Zeppelin III and the fourth album, Untitled. So this was a source of inspiration for them. And I'm going to talk more about Bron-Yr-Aur, Stomp, and other things that I said, especially towards the end of my review, that I didn't like, that I have since changed my opinion about, especially in regards to the last two tracks on Led Zeppelin III. I have a different opinion, and I'd like to share that opinion. But before we get into that, and before we get into my overall issue I have with ranking videos, I think it's good to put a little context into this review, and some of you might be curious if you haven't seen that original review or that original ranking video. Here is a remixed version of my Led Zeppelin III review, which was part of the Rankorama when I put it in 5th place, but I still gushed over it. You could still hear how much I loved the album, and I like a lot of the things I had to say about it. It still was a fun, boozy review, and a lot of what I said, I still stand by. So here you go. We're going to go back in time to what Eddie said about a year and a half ago when he was living in a friend's house in West Hollywood and going through a divorce and was going through half a bottle of scotch. Here is that Edwin talking about Led Zeppelin III. What an opener. Immigrant Song? That's not just proto-heavy metal. That's proto-Viking metal. In 1970 they're doing it. God damn it. Viking metal. And it's just 2 minutes and 26 seconds, but yet so epic. The Norse gods storm in this planet, just like fucking Led Zeppelin walking into a goddamn Starbucks. It has that power. It's amazing. How could Rolling Stone listen to stuff and they were like, I don't like that. Nerds. They fucking put the hammer down. All right, and then Friends. Eastern, weird. I like some of that Eastern stuff, George Harrison did in the Beatles, but never did a song as good as Friends. This utilizes the Eastern and Indian influence in such a unique way and mixes it with like British folk and creates something that's really cryptic and kind of evil sounding, even though it's called Friends. Listen to this song. It's spooky. It's fucking Satan. That's who they're friends with. Celebration Day. They wrote a rock song called Celebration Day. This is evil shit. What are they celebrating? They're celebrating fucking Satan. That's what they're celebrating. And it fucking rocks. Love Celebration Day. Listen to guitar lines. But then we get to talk about guitar lines. My favorite song on the album. One of my all-time favorite songs, period. Since I've Been Loving You. God damn, this song is sex. It is sex. Let me tell you, it is one of the sexiest, most soulful, most beautiful songs ever written. Features one of Jimmy Page's greatest guitar solos. And apparently he did it in one take. In one goddamn take he did this shit. Listen to that. Listen to that. You couldn't do that in one take. You couldn't do it in a billion takes, motherfucker. Since I've Been Loving You. Amazing. I get chills thinking about it. Never gets old, that song. Out with the Tires. Cool bass line. Funky kind of rock song. I dig it. Gallows Pole. God damn it. Here's another one. Some old folky blues song from the past. God damn it. He takes it to a whole other level. Makes it a Technicolor masterpiece. Very cinematic. Love where this song goes. The build up, the sonics, the power. Listen to this production. Listen to this goddamn music. Tangerine. One of the greatest ballads ever written. Just so perfect. And it's just 3 minutes and 12 seconds. And kind of like the Beatles, Jimmy Page was like an expert arranger. The way he arranged songs that they'd never get derivative and go into little different spots. Like Tangerine's a great example of that. And the way it like breaks into the guitar solo at an unexpected moment. And what a beautiful guitar solo. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And another one of my favorite songs on the album, That's the Way. Oh God, it's just like they just took the beauty from beauty and made it more beautiful. That's the Way. It's just this gentle, beautiful acoustic folk song. And to my knowledge, they didn't even rip this one off from anyone. Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp. Am I saying that right? Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp. That's alright. It works with the album. I think I'd like Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp better if the last song was Hey Hey What Can I Do, which was recorded at this time and was the B-side for Immigrant Song. Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp would have gone really well into that, and it would have been a great, perfect way to end this album. But instead, it ends with hats off to Roy Harper, who's actually the guy who sang Roger Waters' part. You would think it was Roger Waters, but it wasn't. It's actually this guy sings Have a Cigar. Pink Floyd's Have a Cigar. And I guess they were friends with him, so they dedicated a song to him. And it's just kind of an experimental blues song. Kind of more of like sound effects and stuff. And it's like an interesting kind of musical coda, but goes on a little bit too long. And it's a little like the blues equivalent of Revolution 9. So it's one of the things that knocks this album down a little bit. But, you know, there's still something kind of evil and creepy about it, which I do like. I do like that element of it. So anyway, yeah, it's a masterpiece. I'm tripping. This is just how I'm ranking them these days. Not bad, Eddie from the past. I agree with most of what you said, and I think you did it in a fun and charming manner. I like that guy. I want to have a drink with him sometime. That being said, I call bullshit on a few things. That guy, that fucking joker at the end, he started talking some smack about the last two songs. Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp, he didn't say he disliked it, but he acted like it was no big deal. That song's great. I love Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp, or however Richard Burton would say it. Comes in great right after That's the Way. You know, you want a nice stomping, fun song like that. The thing, too, about Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp, it's doing a thing, and I touched upon this in the review you just watched, but like on Led Zeppelin III, what's very interesting is that they're really bringing in this specific United Kingdom influence. And like Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp is actually based on a Scottish folk song. So it's a Scottish folk song, and, you know, they're writing this stuff when they're in a Welsh cottage, and you hear it all in the music. They still got the blues is still in there, and that's from America, but I feel when they go country and folk, they're going country and folk in their own uniquely English way. So this is like almost, I guess you would say, this is like rural Scottish hillbilly music, and it's stomping and it's great, and I love it. And I also love the last track now. Yeah. Hats off to Roy, in parentheses, Harper. Only the Roy's in parentheses. So I guess this is some kind of inside play. My guess is that the original traditional song is probably called Hats Off to Harper, and then they insert the Roy as a little joke or a little tip of the hat to Roy Harper, who is this English folk musician that they were friends with and who I mentioned in the other review. That's my guess. If you know more, please leave a comment. I want to correct two things I said. I said, oh, this is like the Revolution 9, like the blues equivalent of Revolution 9. And I said it like that was a bad thing. And in my Remixed Physical Graffiti review, you heard me again throw a little shade at Revolution 9, and I said that I wasn't crazy about it. I was listening to the White Album, my second favorite double album of all time, and my favorite Beatles album, and I was listening to that, and I was like, no, who am I kidding? I love Revolution 9, and I think that's exactly how the White Album should end. You know, and that's what I used to think when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I would just listen to the White Album without any context or knowledge and just listen to it in a very pure, unpretentious manner. And I just thought it sounded like cool, trippy shit. And it just seemed like a natural climax for the album, like the Beatles need a climax, especially post Sgt. Pepper and A Day in the Life. And this is the climax. Yes, it's less emotional and definitely less melodic than A Day in the Life, but John Lennon expressing himself in a very unique way and doing it within the context of a Beatles album, and it's just where it should be, you know? At the end, a big climax, and then you got Good Night to add a little surreal, sentimental touch at the end. A song written by John Lennon, sung by Ringo. In a perfect world, maybe, the White Album would have like Hey Jude, which was recorded as a single, but was the beginning of those sessions. Yeah, Hey Jude could end the album and instead of Revolution 9, and I guess that would kind of make more sense from a more traditional rock and pop perspective, but that's what makes it the White Album. The White Album didn't do a traditional thing at the end. Did something gonzo and weird at the end. Yeah, you know, I don't want to listen to Revolution 9 by itself so much, but as a conclusion to the White Album, I think it's great. And now, all that I just said about Revolution 9, apply it to Hats Off to Roy Harper. Yeah, I was listening to Led Zeppelin III and the same thing happened. I was like, who am I kidding? This is exactly how Led Zeppelin III should end. I love it. It's weird. And it's getting to like the id of the blues. That's the idea. It's that Jimmy Page is not just expanding on the blues and making it widescreen and technicolor. He's also deconstructing it. He's also taking it apart. He's like, you know, throwing out its entrails and throwing them at you. It's kind of sick and perverted, but I like it. That's what he's doing with this song. It's a deconstruction of the blues. It gets to the eerie, almost eerie quality that you would hear in those early folk recordings and those like early Robert Johnson recordings. Is they sound kind of dark and fucked up and weird. And Jimmy Page here is finding a way to give you that feeling again. Like he can't just emulate exactly how those records sounded in the 20s and 30s. He could, but that in itself wouldn't make it sound as eerie. In a way, he's making it sound even closer to those authentic blues records because he's finding a way to make them sound alien to you again. I love it. I think it's great. Like Revolution 9, not necessarily a song I want to hear on its own, but as a conclusion to this album, it's a perfect way to end it. I said in that last review, the B-side to the Immigrant song, Hey, Hey, What Can I Do?, which was from these sessions, and a great song. I love that song. That song sounded like it could have been a single in its own right. It's an amazing song and very catchy. If Led Zeppelin III went from Bron-Yr-Aur Stomp right into Hey Hey What Can I Do? Yeah, that'd be like a perfect album in a more conventional sense. But I don't feel it would give you a sense of finality. It wouldn't give you the sense that something weird or dark curveball was thrown your way, which gives the album more of a mystique the way it ends now. Whereas it would be more normal ending the other way. And that would not be a cool early 70s thing to do. You don't want to end an album in the early 70s normal. You want to throw the curveball, and that's why I love Hats Off to Harper. It's a curveball, right? I love it. It's perfect. This album does not hit a single wrong note. I still would give Physical Graffiti the edge as my favorite Led Zeppelin album, but this ain't far behind by any means. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. And yeah, I'm glad I leaned into the sexuality of Since I've Been Loving You, but that song also has a lot of romance too, which I was denying. And I was denying a lot of the romance of this album during that period. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why Led Zeppelin, as George Michael said, they were one of the few rock bands that sound like they knew how to have sex. Yeah, well, they know how to have sex because they know how to throw in a little romance in there too. A little foreplay. And it's amazing. I've seen this a lot on my Facebook news feed, is a lot of people sharing this article from Far Out, which is an online magazine, about why was Led Zeppelin III so hated. Some of you, especially to some of you younger fans, you might be like, what's that all about? Led Zeppelin III hated? I'm sure there was a crowd of people in the early 70s, especially American headbangers, that just wanted heavy stuff, because at the time Led Zeppelin were peers of Black Sabbath, and they were oftentimes compared. But Led Zeppelin III definitely, especially on the second side, just focused on the folk music and the rootsier stuff, and there was really only heavy tracks on the first side. Even though one of the tracks was the Immigrant Song, which was the heaviest song they had done at that point, and the single. I guess maybe there were some fans at the time that when they heard Immigrant Song and they thought, oh wow, this could be the heaviest album yet, when they listened to Led Zeppelin III, maybe they were initially disappointed. However, despite that initial backlash that the band might have had, and if you're an older fan, by all means, weigh in on this. I'd be curious what people actually said when Led Zeppelin III came out. Despite that, over the years, I don't think anyone thinks that. In fact, I see Led Zeppelin III is very highly regarded and generally is considered one of their better albums. Although, it seems like the first 6 albums are pretty much all considered masterpieces. The band themselves seem to always like 3 a lot. Whenever they played live, and especially if they did an acoustic set, they would always do a big chunk of Led Zeppelin III live. Even some of the electric songs like Since I've Been Loving You was a staple. They used to play that a lot live. And also in the mid-90s, when Jimmy Page and Robert Plant got back together again and did the No Quarter shows that they then used for a video and a album, the No Quarter album that came out in 1994. And like half of that's Led Zeppelin III. They dug into Led Zeppelin III, and the big single that was released, I remember MTV always showing, it got heavy rotation on MTV, that clip of them doing a Gallows Pole. And it was like a current song, you know, right then in 1994. And Led Zeppelin were like a current band. That album's almost like a celebration of Led Zeppelin III, showing you that Robert Plant and Jimmy Page really loved this album. And they're not wrong to love it, because it's a masterpiece. Yes, I use that word quite a bit, but that's because I'm talking about albums I love. I'm not a hater, I'm a lover. And that's my Led Zeppelin III re-review and re-ranking. But you know what? I'm not really going to be doing ranking videos in the future. You know, I'll do them once in a blue moon. I know you, Mark Daly, I know you love the rankings. And when I hit 2,000 subscribers, I'll do a ranking video for you, Mark. So there you go. But for the most part, I don't want to do ranking videos. They're not as bad as reaction videos, which I can't stand, by the way. But I feel like a ranking video is kind of like the cousin of a reaction video. It's definitely trying to turn everything into like a little game or create a little drama and intrigue. And it's like an easy thing for people to do to try to keep a person watching a video. I want to create, especially moving forward, material and content that has a little more substance to it and isn't just doing the easy, predictable thing. And I want to dive even deeper into these albums and these bands and these artists that still inspire millions of people to this day. In the future, I might not make as many videos. I might do a few off-the-cuff videos, like one of my favorite bands have like a new album that just dropped. I might do a review then, like Judas Priest in the spring, they got a new album coming out. So yeah, I'll review the new Judas Priest album. I'll do something like that here and there. But for the most part, I want my videos to be a little more like in the vein of my Bon Scott Back in Black Conspiracy series of videos. I want to do more thoughtful videos where I really get in depth about specific niche concepts. And like my next video series is going to be about the Beatles and a very specific mythology connected to the Beatles, in which I'm going to be revealing a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about, and you know, really diving deep into this stuff. And I want to keep growing as a content creator. So you might be getting less videos in the future, but when you do get the videos, I promise you they're going to be top-notch stuff. I want to really take my game to the next level, and that's what I aim to do with my next series of videos. So keep a lookout for that. In the next month or two, you'll get this whole new series about the Beatles that I'm very excited about. So there you go. I am Eddie Canestracci. Thanks for watching, and as always, rock on!